Hey, good afternoon. Thanks for uploading Humble Lesson number 2. Lessons 3 through 10, and maybe even beyond, are going to be devoted to me talking to you about something that I just love studying and love teaching, and it's classical rhetoric. The foundation of this course, in fact, the foundation of all the writing courses I've ever taught since I was a young man, is classical rhetoric. And when I talk about that, I'm talking about the Greeks and the great debt that I owe them. But before I start talking about that, before I prepare you for the first essay for this course, which will be due in the Dropbox next week, I'd like to give you all a modern and I think helpful way of thinking about writing. And it all comes from a book that I read in my first incarnation as a graduate student by this guy named James Knievy. And the book was called The Modes of Modern Writing. It's so boring, it would probably kill you dead if you tried to read it. It took a shot at killing me, but I got through it. And since I've read it, I'll spare you the trouble to read it, and I can tell you the theory of the book. Knievy was a guy way back in the late 70s, early 80s, if memory serves. And his interest was basically one question. When people sit down at a keyboard, or sit down with a pen and some paper at a desk, and begin to write, in what ways do they behave? And he came up with 4 modes or modalities for modern writers. And in a hurry, I can share these ideas with you. The first mode that he came up with is the mode of persuasion, the mode of argumentation. Anytime you find yourself reading an editorial in a newspaper, an opinion essay, a letter to an editor, or anytime in this country when we have an election and a politician stands up and tries to convince you to vote for him, you're in the presence of persuasion. Someone's making an argument. Someone is trying to get your beliefs to tally with theirs. Aristotle says that all discourse is persuasive by nature, and I kind of believe him. Billboards are persuasive by nature. Poems, poetry, that I love so much I can hardly talk about it. That poems can be persuasive. Short stories can be persuasive. And it's huge. It's sort of mode number 1 for me, and it'll be the first mode that we'll be talking about, and it'll be the first mode that I'll invite you to write in, at least in terms of formal papers. The second mode is called self-expression, or self-expressive writing, and it's dead simple. It is expressing the self. You're writing sort of about what's inside of you, of your head. When you send an email or receive an email from a friend, you're probably getting something that's self-expressive. One of the reasons I have to tell all my students to put their phones away is because they're going to take them out and they're going to start texting. That texting, that writing, is self-expressive in nature. I'm awful worried about all your thumbs, by the way. You're going to wear them out on those machines. If you leave a note for your parents, if you write an email, that's self-expressive, and it's probably the most natural mode of all. The third mode is the mode that is pretty much the territory of composition 2. That's called exposition, or informative writing. Many of you are going to take that course. Maybe you'll take it from me if this course works out from you. You will write a research paper in there. You will write from sources. And examples of expository writing can include an almanac, an encyclopedia, a dictionary, the textbooks that you buy. If you're taking sociology or psychology or speech, those are textbooks tend to be exposition, informative in nature. There's a fourth mode that some writers aspire to. Maybe you've tried it, and that is the mode of literature. If you've ever aspired to write a poem or a short story or a play, or maybe even a novel, you have tried to create literary art, something artistic. So one of the great questions in rhetoric is, when people are doing something, what is it that they're doing? And why are they doing it? Well, if they're writing, they're probably using the 4 modes of writing that I just outlined for you. Persuasion, self-expression, expository, and the literary. I've got a little story for you that might help this come out clear for you. When I think about the modes of modern writing, I often think of one of the first students I ever had. It was a young man named Aaron Cross, and I was his teacher way back in the 80s at St. Cloud Technical School, high school, down here in Stearns County, Minnesota. I was teaching a bunch of 7th graders, and I'd given out a bunch of worksheets. And Aaron, after a while, I noticed off in the corner of my eye, wasn't working on his worksheet. Instead, he was working on a little note. And it was intended for a girl named Heather, who sat in the opposite corner of him as him. He labored away on it, and after a while I saw him take that note and fold it up in the shape of a little paper triangle. That's what kids did in the 80s. I was 26 years old. I had no idea what I was doing, and I wanted to be sure to catch him, passing that note along the back, kid to kid to kid to kid. So right before that note got to Heather, I darted over there and took it, put it in my pocket, gave Aaron a talking to, and the bell rang, and all those long time ago 7th graders went out into the hallway. I opened up the note and read it. It was about romance, and it said, "Heather, do you like me or what? Aaron." Now, the reason I'm talking about this story and the reason I'm offering it to you is to help you understand that you're very rarely going to write in one mode when you pick up a pen or a keyboard. It's pretty rare that you're going to write just persuasively. These modes are going to blur. You're probably going to use more than one at the same time. Aaron did with that single question. He was making an argument. He was letting Heather know something, information-wise. He was also expressing self. 3 of the 4 modes in a single question. You're going to do the same. In the first persuasive paper that you're going to write back next week, write for me next week, and put in the Dropbox, you're going to make an argument. You're going to make a claim, and you're going to back it up. But if you believe in that argument, it'll be self-expressive too. And those are the modes of modern writing. And why I thought my cows could help me tell this story is a mystery to me.